Welcome to Codex History of Video Games. I'm Mike Coletta.
And I'm Tyler Osby.
And today, as you can see by our video, we have a fun, silly little tier list to do. I'm excited we could do this now with the crazy video we got.
Here. And if you're not watching the video, you should, because it probably makes this episode even better. But we'll do our best to make it listenable for our audio listeners, which is
This is kind of handy because if I go like this, I'm pointing right to the S tier. So that means, and you're the master of the C tier, and
I can't do anything.
Yeah, that works. And now it's focusing on your hand. Perfect. Okay, so we're doing a tier list today. It is entirely about game cartridges. This is going to be ridiculous because you're like, hey, Mike, Tyler, how can you judge a game cartridge? We're doing it entirely on looks. That's what we're doing.
It's clear. It's on aesthetics, look, feel as well. I want to put feel in there. This was a suggested thing from somebody. Now I can't remember. I need to go into our ideas folder and find out who.
Yeah, you should find out who it is. And while we do that, I am going to kind of give you a rundown real quick of the cartridges we've chosen. We've chosen pretty much everything that we know, plus some extra things we've learned about through research. Because we're kind of going off of like what these look like, I feel like it's safe to say if we don't own these cartridges, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's okay. This was suggested by Skilp on Discord, by the way.
Skilp, thank you, Skilp. So we're doing it up, Skilp style. Okay, here we go. So the first thing we're gonna do. Well, do you have like a preference of where you want to start, like Nintendo?
Nope.
All right, let's start modern. Let's start with the 3DS. I'm gonna put it in the B tier.
Okay.
So 3DS, like, what do you think about the 3DS? Is aesthetically pleasing?
Well,
It's very simple.
The little tab in the corner is aesthetically pleasing. I think it is the core differentiator between whether or not a 3DS cartridge is a 3DS game or a DS game. It's the thing that keeps it from being inserted into a DS. So I think that's like the core difference between that and the DS. But I really like it because it kind of reminds me of like an SD card. And this was, I mean, the 3DS came out in 2010, but the DS itself was 2004. And it was probably, those were, I want to say maybe the smallest cartridges we'd ever seen. Certainly on a handheld, they were smaller than GBA cartridges. And they click in, they do that little satisfying spring click in,
That does feel good when it does that.
Yeah. Cause like before that, Game Boys was it just clicked in. It didn't, there was no spring involved.
There's no spring in its step, you could say.
Spring in its step. So what springs, but it doesn't launch out because it there's a little thing that it catches on that you sort of have to pull it out after you spring it. So that's practical,
But because it looks just like an SD card, I'm not really leaning putting this very high.
Yeah, I mean, looks wise, it's extremely functional, right?
We have S, A, B, C, and F. That's how we're doing it. We skipped D because that's just too many tiers. We can just do 5 tiers. That's fine. And I think this should be C tier.
I agree.
C tier for the DS, 3DS specifically. We're moving it in there. Okay. Yep. So now, where do you want to go? Give me a brand, Sega or Nintendo. You pick.
Let's do an Atari cartridge.
Ooh, never mind.
We got them on the list.
We do have some Atari cartridges. Let's just start with Atari 2600. So I'm going to put that right there. It's a very classic Atari.
Mm-hmm.
So it's square. I specifically chose ET for the picture.
What I love about Atari cartridges is, for the most part, they don't have any like game screenshots on the cover. They sort of are, it's all like artwork that's sort of meant to evoke the feeling that the game will bring you. But if they just put game art on the cover, you would be like, what is this? Because Atari 2600 games look bad. They looked bad then and they look worse now.
Yeah, I love the art. Like the art makes it go up higher for me.
I agree.
Because it's a square cartridge, but it just seems so much better. Even the Lego versions I have with the stickers have the art on them, and it's so nice, and I love it. So this is an S tier, but this is A tier for me.
Okay, I'll go with A tier. I was like, S tier is a little high.
No, yeah, I said it's not S tier. It's A tier.
Oh, not S tier. Yeah.
Not S tier. Yeah, it's A tier for me. Because of the art on the cover, it really sells it. Because it's a very basic cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pick another one here.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick... Ooh, let's go. Some of these got cut off a little bit. I don't like that. Like this 32X one for Doom got kind of cut off.
Yeah.
Which is
it looks okay once you drag it up in there.
Okay. It's got these little ridges on it on the bottom and the top. I don't. It's kind of just all the Sega cards to me are a little basic.
Yeah, they're kind of all the same, especially in the Genesis, like
This
32X.
does okay. It did cut off. It's got nice curves on the edges, though. It does have.
Yeah.
It's not like a box, so that gives it some points. But I put it in the B tier to start off, and I think it could just live in the B tier.
Yeah, so the number one thing aesthetically that I think the 32X cartridge has going for it is that, well, maybe not. I was gonna say it is the top of the tower of power in a Genesis, where you have your Genesis, you have your like 32X and your Game Genie, and you just keep stacking cartridges on there. But it's actually not the top cartridge, because I think you can put regular Genesis cartridges into a 32X, which means Sonic and Knuckles, which means a Sega Genesis Game Genie, Sonic and Knuckles, and then something else on top of that. So never mind. B tier. B tier is fine.
B tier is fine because it's the foundation of the Tower of Power, and it's not
Yeah,
the top.
it could be the top part of a tower of power, but it's not. You wouldn't be building the greatest tower of power.
Gotcha. Okay. You got to pick. What do you want to pick out of these ones here?
Let's go with Nintendo 64.
Oh, so you would think I would put this up really high,
I
right?
would
Because
think
I
that.
am a Nintendo 64 stan. But honestly, most of them are gray. They are colored cartridges out there, like the Zelda one, Ocarina of Time. This is actually a 60
This Donkey
Donkey
Kong
Kong.
64 one should
It
be yellow.
should be yellow. This is a rare gray version that I
Yeah.
picked online just as a picture because I was like, this is fun. But the cards are kind of basic. They're pretty basic to me. The only thing that's like extra with them is that curve on the top, the little
Mhm.
curve. But it's not S tier. It's not A tier. This is a B tier cartridge to me.
They slide in the cartridge slot really nicely. There's no eject button, which means they sort of glide out. There isn't really much
As a
resistance to
person that
pulling them
has
up.
a ton of them, like I'm holding
Yeah.
this is the newest game I bought. I forgot to share it.
What game is
It's
it?
it's called Mage. Can you see it?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's got cool art on it. It's called Mage the Dark Age, and or Mace the Dark Age. It's a fighting game. It's actually supposed to be a pretty good fighting game, and I haven't played it yet. But I just kind of got the card all cleaned up today. I just like rubbing alcohol, the sticky goo on it. So I
Nice.
might try it out. But it's got like some fun lines on the side of it. It's got that card. Yeah, you can't really tell from that picture that it's got the lines and stuff. But I mean, it's not square. I don't know. Part of me wants to put it in A tier because I love the 64, but I'm also trying to be like in reference to all these other cartridges we have. This one is very average to me. Can we do A? Can we do A?
We can do A tier. I like it. It has special place in my heart because as a person whose very first console that I ever owned that was mine was a Super Nintendo. But it was kind of towards the end of the Super Nintendo's lifespan, right? Like 90, I want to say I got it in 95. I think I got it in 96. Um, so it would have been a few months before the Nintendo 64 came out, is when I got my Super Nintendo. And so to me, the Nintendo 64 cartridge always looked like the future, because it
Yeah.
was like I was into video games hard when I got my Super Nintendo. And so knowing that there was something better out there at the time, like 64 cartridges were the future. These were the best games that you could get. And I had to wait a couple years before I got my Nintendo 64.
Also, it's the last non-handheld cartridge for, you know,
Yeah.
I guess the Switch. Never mind. We
Yeah.
have the Switch on here, but from the retro days of Nintendo, it's the
Yeah. Yeah.
last
From
one.
the old days for sure.
Yeah. So, okay. I think I'm gonna go with the just standard Game Boy cartridge. This is a classic
Hmm.
Game Boy cartridge. What do you think about it? I have a really thing that I love about this cartridge, like a feature of this cartridge that I really love.
Okay.
And
I think I can guess what it is. I want you to tell me what that feature is.
it's the thumbprint on the top so you can pull it out easier.
Oh, I was gonna say something different.
See, it's got an indent on the front where you can actually pull out the here. I'm gonna do this actually. Sorry, everybody. We're gonna do a technical difficulties here because I am actually gonna share my whole screen.
Oh man.
So that way I can just drag bigger pictures over because I don't think we're really doing the cartridges justice here by having them tiny like that. So let me go
Okay.
ahead and grab the Game Boy cart.
We can see all your bookmarks.
You can see all my bookmarks there. But do you see that? Oh, that's the Doom one. Why did I? Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Oh yeah, you can zoom in.
So there, yeah. So like this is something to me like the actual like Nintendo Game Boy TM spot is 100% like indented in, so you could put your thumb in and pull it out easier. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really cool thing. like
I
an
also
actual working feature.
Yeah, I also love the little chip in the top right corner of it that when you play on a regular Game Boy, there's a little thing that slides in there so that you can't be pulled out during gameplay. This is on the original DMG Game Boy, like the big fatty one. The Game Boy Pocket didn't have that. And then the Game Boy Color didn't have it either because Game Boy Color cartridges were missing that. And that was part of why you couldn't put a Game Boy Color cartridge into a DMG, like the fatty Game Boy, was because that little thing you couldn't turn the Game Boy on. The switch wouldn't work. Um, the Game Boy Color cartridge also had the same thing for pulling the cartridge out, but it was like a bubble that like sort of like a convex instead of a concave, which did the same thing, but definitely made the cartridge a little bit different aesthetically. Those were also translucent. That was the height of translucent plastics in consumer
Dude,
electronics.
that was a good time. It was a good
Dude,
time to be like, it's back now. I mean, my
yeah,
Miu Mini is translucent, like so it's back.
Atomic Purple is back.
Oh yeah, baby, Atomic Purple. We are an Atomic Purple podcast. We should say
That's
that
right.
right now. We're both big fans of it.
Yeah, this
I'm
light is Atomic
tempted
Purple.
to give this cartridge S because I just love the original Game Boy carts. I think they're the best ones. Like the clicking when you like clicked it into place, it felt
Yeah,
good. It was solid. The thumb imprint, the little fins. I'm gonna call it fins. Look at those
yeah,
little rim fins on the side. Oh, I want to put this in the S tier. How do you feel?
I'm with you.
Good.
Game Boy cartridge, S tier. Plus, you had all the different colors. The yellow for the Donkey Kong Country or Donkey Kong Land games. You had, of course, red, blue, gold, silver, yellow for Pokemon. You had the black ones for the games that worked in original Game Boys, but had color in them for color Game Boys too. They were like color enhanced games. So a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. Do you like how I showed my bookmarks to people? Do I need to be worried about that? You think? I think I'm
No, I
okay.
don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone's gonna see the holiday gift card I got finding a gift for someone, so it's fine. Oh no. Okay. Do you have another preference of where you want to go next?
Let's go with let's do the Nintendo Switch.
The Nintendo Switch. Okay. So I'm gonna put these right here. That's the Nintendo Switch. I actually got this from a here we go. There's a Switch carts right there. I got it from an article about how Nintendo Switch cartridges taste bad because intentionally
They do.
So,
They taste bad, which is why it can't be any higher than a C tier for me.
Because you know what, if there's one thing we all like, it's Switch it's cartridges that taste good. We've always said that on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to give it the lowest tier because it doesn't do anything special.
It's just functional today. Really, it only exists so that you can buy games in physical form, which we appreciate as a history podcast who loves preservation of games. Physical media is great, but it is just functional, right? It doesn't do anything cool. They're small. They kind of rattle a little bit when you shake them.
They do click in when you put it into the
That's
Switch.
true. That's sathing.
So it's got that going for it, but
they taste awful.
That's true. They taste bad. F tier because they taste bad.
Yep.
Sorry, everybody. There we go. Threw it right in the F tier. If you disagree, email us. You're like, I like my cartridges that taste bad.
Also, the cases for them are cool, but they're way too big because
they're way too big.
You open the case up and then it's just a little plastic thing that holds a little tiny cartridge and then probably no manual because it's 2023 and we don't have manuals anymore.
Oh, dude. I got the Stardew Valley Switch cartridge and it came with an old school manual. And my heart was full when I opened up the case. I was like, this is amazing to me that it has a manual in it that you can actually like go through and it explains things in it. And it's got really cute artwork in it. Fantastic. Highly recommend the physical edition of Stardew Valley for Switch for that reason. If you're looking
you can read it in the car on the way home.
Exactly.
Actually, you can play it in the car on the way home because it's a Switch game. But still.
Nope. You got to sit in the passenger seat, or no, you sit in the back seat. If you're a full-grown adult, sit in the back seat of your car. Have someone else drive you home, and you can read the instruction booklet. Okay. Is it my pick?
Yep.
I am going to go with the Channel F. So I'm throwing that in the B tier for now. We have the Channel F in here because we have to. It's the first cartridge. Look at it.
Similar to a 2600.
Yeah, in all its glory. Look at it. I like that it has these little ridges at the bottom.
Yeah.
I like how it has instructions on how to use it. That's important.
Yeah.
The yellow, like the safety construction yellow. I'm into that as well. It's a good cartridge to me. I think this should go... But I think it should go B tier. I don't think it should go higher than B tier.
I'm good with that. I do really appreciate the instructions on the front because obviously being the very first system with cartridges, it's not a given that people know how to use them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I love it. B tier it is. Going into the B tier, you're staying there. All right, your next pick, Tyler.
Game Boy Advance,
Game Boy Advance. All
mostly
right.
because of the Lizzie McGuire
Mostly because I
that we
chose the
have.
Lizzie McGuire game when I picked one, which is important for everybody to see the Lizzie McGuire game.
I have a similar emotional connection to the Game Boy Advance cartridge, similar to the Nintendo 64 cartridge, because it was new technology. And I think the Game Boy Advance came out when I was like 11 or 12 years old. And seeing that those cartridges were half the height, but still like generally the same size. I was like, this is the future. Cartridges don't have to be that big. They can be so small. I thought that was really, really cool. So I love it. It does have a ridge along the top for
Your
easy
thumb
removal.
pulling out, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't
This
know. What
should
do you
go
think,
up.
Mike?
This should go high for me. I think
Okay.
I like the look of it. I had the same experience. I remember the day I got my Game Boy Advanced. I remember it.
Yeah.
Like I was on a vacation in Alaska after I had moved down to Washington, and my mom took me to a Walmart and bought me a Game Boy Advance. So I have good feelings about this. So
What color? What color Game Boy Advance did
I
you
had a white Game Boy
Me
Advance,
too.
which was like, I mean, for your dirt though, it looked
It was bad.
terrible.
It got
It
dirty
was
really bad.
really
Yeah.
bad. And
My brother had the purple one, atomic purple, the
oh
see-through
yeah,
translucent, and that was a better call.
yeah. I think we should. I mean, do we put 2 handheld cartridges in the S tier? Do we dare?
I mean, if it's hard to argue that this cartridge isn't better than the original Game Boy cartridge, and if the original Game Boy cartridge is S tier, logic would dictate
S tier it
Game Boy
is.
Advance cartridge
We're
S tier.
throwing it in there in the S tier.
Yep.
Boom, there it goes. Okay. So, is it my pick now?
Yes.
I am going to go with the Atari cart right here. I believe this is the 5200 cart.
Okay.
It is the 5200 cart. Yes, it is. There it is. I chose this Joust one. I like the look of this way more than the actual Atari like 2600 cartridges because it keeps the art thing going, but it just adds a little more taste to the side. It's got these ridges on the side.
Mhm.
Got the Atari logo kind of like indented into it. So
Yep.
I think this should go higher than the initial Atari.
I agree. It's much more aesthetically pleasing than the original Atari.
Yeah. Now doesn't mean it's a
And it's
better
got a
system.
jousting game, of course.
Yeah, it has a jousting game. And look at that. Look at how mad that ostrich looks. Just
Extremely
look at
mad.
the anger in its heart. So I think. Well, actually,
If we put 2600 in the A tier,
this
I don't know
what
if
this
this is
makes
an
this
S
what
tier
you know what this
cartridge.
you know what this makes me want to do. Move Atari 2600 to the B tier and move.
We got our
52
first. I don't know what to call it when we
switcheroo.
switcheroo. We got our first switcheroo. Our first demotion.
First demotion. It is. I agree. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's
then
what
we
we
put
did.
the 5200 at the A tier. I'm good. I'm down with
5200 A tier, Atari 2600 B tier.
that. Okay.
Nolan Bushnell is furious right now.
Yeah, so
He's
mad.
so mad at us. All right, what's the next one you want to pick, Tyler?
I want to talk about the Game Gear cartridge next.
The Game Gear cartridge. That would be this one right here.
This particular one is great because Sonic is flying a hang glider in it.
That's true, and
which
I think
is near and dear to my heart.
We actually had another game that just came out recently that has hang gliders in it, and that is Lego Fortnite has hang gliders in it. So big week for hang gliding in video games.
This is great. I love games with hang gliders in them. This game also is very hard. I've played it on a Game Gear. But what I want to say about the Game Gear cartridge is, as you can see along the top here, a lot of extra plastic there for pulling the thing out of the Game Gear, which is important because you're going to be changing games a lot because there aren't that many good Game Gear games. But the way the cartridge feels in your hand as you slide it into the cartridge slot in a Game Gear, it's so smooth. It's so nice. It makes a nice like chunk noise that I don't know how to describe in podcast form. But it's satisfying and I like it. And for that reason, I want to put it in the A tier.
In the A tier. Okay.
Yep.
A tier it is. I don't have a lot of experience with the Game Gear, so I agree with you then. If it goes in the A tier, I trust your judgment.
Yeah, nobody has a lot of experience with the Game Gear because batteries died.
That's true. That's true. You play for an hour and then you'd have to go buy new AA or whatever.
6 new AA's.
That's right. Well, I'm going to pick, I think for me, I'm going to pick the Genesis cart as the next one we look at here. Because and this is the normal Genesis cart. We do have a different style of Sega Genesis cart in here as well. But this is the normal Sega Genesis cartridge. the kind that I had as a child. And I have to say, if I thought the N64 was kind of bland and boring, I think this is even more bland and boring. I like the big artwork, but this is a C tier cartridge to me.
The angles are a little harsher than the Nintendo 64 cartridge for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do like this. So this doesn't reflect in the picture that we're seeing here, but Sega Genesis, the box that the games came in,
Oh
also
yeah,
doubled as a case.
the plastic snappy boxes.
Yeah, which
Those were really
Nintendo
good.
games never did that until it was, disc time on the GameCube, and then everything has to have a case. But so like lots of Genesis games, because of the way that they were sold as the box being the case, you can still get them complete in box, which is much more rare, I would say, for
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo titles before the GameCube. So that's kind of cool. I don't know if we want to factor that into the cartridge aesthetics, but I do
I
think
think
that
that's different. I think we're just
you
looking
think
at
that's different.
boxes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're not looking at boxes. We're just looking at cartridges.
Okay.
If we
All right.
throw boxes in, we got to go through the whole list all over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. But boxes, that's another tier list we should do.
Do you remember like the little snap boxes for the Game Boy games, the little clear plastic boxes that you'd put
Uh-huh.
them in? I love those.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes some people will put them in like cassette cases too. You could like print off artwork and put them in a cassette case. That's a really cool
mhm.
idea.
Well, so do we? I don't. I want to put this in the C tier. Is that too harsh?
No, I think C tier's fine.
Perfect. Boom. C tier it is. All right. Got to choose another one here, Tyler.
Okay.
Do we just want to do
Um,
the alternate Genesis one?
Yeah, let's just talk about the alternate Genesis one. This is
Because
the one that EA did because Sega wanted to manufacture EA's cartridges, and like Nintendo did, they manufactured all the cartridges for the NES and the Super NES. And Sega kind of wanted to do the same thing, but I think when EA went to them and they were like, "Well, you have to use our cartridges," and EA was like, "No, we don't. We'll make our own, and we'll reverse engineer everything so that we don't have to use any of your patents or whatever." And so they didn't have to pay the licensing fee to Sega to get cartridges manufactured. So they have a slightly different cartridge with a little yellow tab on it. I kind of like the yellow tab. I don't think it does anything functionally, so that's fine though. But aesthetically, I kind of like the yellow tab. I think I prefer it to the standard Genesis cartridge.
so this one should
you're
stay
asking me.
in B if the Genesis cart was in C.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna choose. Let's just go. We should just get into it because I don't know anything about this cart.
We got a couple of weird ones in here,
Yeah,
and
and
obviously we can't cover every weird cartridge that
you
ever.
know more about this than I do. This is the Boktai cart for Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, it sticks out of the top of your Game Boy Advance a little bit. And the whole point behind this cartridge was I haven't really played this game, but there are certain features of this game that you need to be in direct sunlight. The game is called Boktai. The sun is in your hand, and you need to be in direct sunlight with this cartridge that I think you could trick it with like a bright light indoors too, but you needed to be in direct sunlight for whatever feature this game did. So functionally, it's very cool. Aesthetically, it's like kind of bulbous on the top. It sort of protrudes a bit,
But it's transparent.
but it is transparent. And for that reason, I think it's B tier because it's not S tier the way that the GBA cartridges are.
Okay, I would agree with that. I also forgot I have a cartridge here actually that I didn't put on this list. That is a Game Boy, I believe it's a Game Boy Color cartridge that has a battery for Rumble in it.
Oh, yeah.
I have it here somewhere.
Talking about Pokemon Pinball?
This one was a fishing game I found at
Oh,
PAX,
okay.
and I bought it for like $9. I thought it was so weird, and I wanted
Yeah.
to just have it. But it has I don't really know if it deserves to go on the list because it's just a normal Game Boy Color cart with a little plastic piece on top where that a battery fits in. That's about it. So, but
Yeah, is it this? I think it's the same thing as Pokemon Pinball
it
one, which
is. It
had a
is.
rumble
There
feature
were like
also.
4 or 5 games that had Rumble feature, and it was like a fishing one and Pokemon Pinball, and then some other ones there. But I don't think it really belongs on the list. I am gonna go with the normal DS cartridge, the normal standard DS cartridge that you would get when you purchased the Nintendo DS in 2004. You said was when
Yeah,
that came
late
out.
2004 is when the DS came out.
Wow, time flies. I'm sad I
Okay.
got rid of my original DS. I loved that thing. I don't know. I know why I sold it because
Was
I
it a
was in
tank one,
financial
like
straits.
the non-light one?
No, it was a light. It was a
Oh, light.
DS light.
Okay. Light's a
Yeah.
good one because the backlight on the light was actually good. The tank, the
Mhm.
big fatty DS is bad.
Yeah. I'm sad I got rid of my Nintendo DS Lite, but I needed the money at the time, so I guess I can't be too mad about it. So this
Sometimes you
cartridge
gotta-
though, very plain Jane, very plain, simple.
Yep.
Black cart. It's got the little curve on the one side. That's about it.
Yeah, but a
I
little
don't
bit
want
more
to wreck.
symmetrical than the 3DS cart.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if we value symmetry or not, but
I kind of don't. I want it to be a little different.
okay.
That's kind of how I feel. I want to put this in the I want to put this in the F tier. Is that too harsh or should we go C?
Right alongside. Well, how do they taste?
Let me go get a DS cart real quick. Goes a whole different show. I don't I don't think it's that special, and I don't think it's as good as the C tier 3DS cart, which means I kind of want to put it in the F tier. I guess this is us getting rid of a D tier when we really needed one. I guess now
Maybe.
that
I say put it in the F tier.
F tier it
Uh,
is. All right.
Nintendo's really just spanning the whole thing here. We got S tier is Game Boy cartridges, F tier is Nintendo cartridges. There's a Nintendo
Mm-hmm.
cartridge in every tier except for
No,
B tier.
no
No
B
B
tier.
tier.
No B tier.
No middle of the road cartridges for Nintendo. They're either awesome or bad.
We haven't gotten to the two big ones yet, though.
That's true.
Where do you want to go next?
I want to go with the Master System, Sega Master System.
Okay.
R-type cartridge.
Oh yeah, the R type one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and get the full picture of that one.
This one's F tier for me. It's awful. Look at
Oh,
that. It doesn't even have a picture of the
disgusting.
game on it.
Disgusting.
And it has that really bad aesthetic that Sega had in the Master System days and a little bit into the early Genesis days where they had like this checkerboard, not checkerboard, but like crisscross pattern that just looks like it kind of reminds me of like in the 80s when they talk about cyberspace and they
Mm-hmm.
had that like weird like crisscross
Green.
pattern.
It's usually green and there's the black background and it's got like
Yeah.
yeah. The only thing it has going for it is it kind of has this ridge right here. I'm trying to use it with a mouse
Yeah.
to try to like make it so you can pull it out easier. You have a handle to pull on. But other than that, this is the most boring cartridge there is. F tier.
Yep.
Agreed.
And the words aren't even written along the top. So if you got like a little stack of them, you don't even know what game's what. You gotta pull it out. You
Yeah,
just
that
gotta
is
throw
actually
your games all over the
something
floor.
that is something that's a flaw in the 64
Yeah.
cartridge is you can't tell what the name is.
Yeah.
So
People make stickers for every game that you can print out and put the sticker on
yeah,
top
I
of it.
could. I thought about it for my collection because you could just buy the sticker set for
Yeah.
everything. And I
Yep.
was like, I don't want to do that. F tier works
F
for me.
tier, Master System, bad.
I'm gonna do this weird guy that you pointed out. This really weird Tiger Electronics R Zone cartridge.
They're so weird. The thing I love the most about it is the screen is in the cartridge. So every game had its own screen. I think it's translucent and sort of gets projected onto. There was a helmet version with a little thing that sit in front of you, like here, in front of your eyeball. One eyeball, not two, just one, and it would like project and get mirrored back to you. Not great. There were a couple other like handheld versions that sort of did the same thing, even though they weren't like meant to be like a virtual reality, like mid 90s virtual reality, which was not virtual reality at all. Um, I I just think it's so interesting that they have a screen built into them, every single one of them, because that's just how the system functioned.
Yeah, this looks really cheap. That's how I would describe
Yeah,
the
the games were
look.
not good. They were like bad Tiger Electronics like handheld games. They really weren't very good.
Yeah, it just if I saw this at a like thrift store, I would think to myself, this belongs on a Tiger Electronics thing. I the screen's a cool thing, I
It's
guess.
cool. So for that reason, I keep it out of the F tier, but
C tier,
yeah,
C tier it is. Okay. I I just picked you go. We're getting to the final four here. These are big
yeah,
for me because some of these are kind of weird, so I was excited about it. Like,
yeah. Well, let's talk about the NES cartridge then.
okay, NES cartridge to me is the most interesting looking of all of them because
Mhm,
it's not symmetrical, which is
mhm.
what I love about it. Like, so wow, that's a really big picture. That's okay. So to me, the artwork being on the right side with this ridged line is really cool. Like that's something I really like.
Me
And
too.
and it's just so different looking that to me, I like the NES cart over the SNES cart. And it's kind of controversial potentially. This is an S tier cartridge to me. because it's just so different looking. It's so cool looking. And the name is also on the top. You can't see it, obviously, because it's not sideways, but there is the name of the game up there.
That's true, because you have to insert it straight ahead of you, so you want to be able to
Mm-hmm.
see what's in your NES as you pull it out.
Yep.
What I really like about it is how the cartridge aesthetic matches the console's aesthetic, or complements the console's aesthetic in a really pleasing way. Like those ridges that you're just pointing out, like the console itself has those ridges on it too, in kind of the same spot, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
really cool, and I really
I
like it. It
I
doesn't work as
think
well in the top loading NES, but
Yeah, this also, I just realized this picture I got might be some sort of aftermarket shenanigans because I'm looking at it and this like little notch on the top is like not in the cartridge. It's
yeah,
it's
that is
it's
kind of
all
weird. But
yeah, it's all fused together. So I might have gotten a weird picture.
might be a
But
weird reflection. But yeah, but functionally speaking, that little notch for pulling the games out was great, which is really good because NES systems have very grippy cartridge mechanisms that would sort of fail over time, and then you have to replace it. I don't know if you've ever replaced an NES cartridge thing. The new ones that you
here, I
get,
got this
like,
better picture. This is just a blank cart without any
yeah,
stuff on it. But see how it's like fused on there? So
yeah,
this is just straight from Wikipedia, which I trust as being the good one.
yeah,
I've actually opened these up, and what's funny about the NES cart is the entire chip system is on the bottom right here. It's not this, it's way too big. It's a lot of empty plastic.
yeah. It's mostly empty space. Yeah,
Yeah, it's entirely for aesthetics, which is what I kind of respect about it. Is it's like they tried to make it like an artsy thing that looks cool.
yeah.
So I want to
Also,
put
they
this
had
in the S
batteries in
tier.
them. Like some of them, or some games had battery backups in them. So,
Zelda,
yep.
very common, very common thing to do now. I have a Zelda cartridge that doesn't work currently, and I clean the contacts and everything, but I need to do the soldering to fix the battery, and it's a
Mm.
very common fix for that cartridge. I think this belongs in the S tier,
All right.
and I'm not taking no for an answer, Tyler.
Okay.
I'm getting.
I'm going with you on that one.
You're getting with me. Okay, we're not
Mhm.
fighting. That's good.
We're not
That's
fighting about
good.
the S tier of the NES cartridge.
All right. You pick the NES.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick this one because it's been sitting here for a long time, and it's the Intellivision cartridge, and I picked
Okay.
it, and I picked this picture for a very specific reason because this cartridge can stack this way, like, and
Can
it.
you make it bigger?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm pulling it up right now. Sorry, yeah, but
Okay.
these are what the cartridges
Mhm.
looks like, and I don't know if they're designed to stack this way, but they can look this way when you stack them to make them look neat. And I thought
That's
this was a
cool.
very different thing.
I feel
So
like
that's
you
why
can't
I
stack
pulled it.
them very high before it falls
You
over.
can't. You can't. This is like, I think this is actually a thumbnail from a video called "How High Can I Stack in Television Cartridges?" So this might be the limit right here. But I I like that they have a different way of like storing them if you want to get creative with it. Now they are ridiculously simple, as you can tell. They only have the label on that front part right there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
But I guess they sort of went in similar to the NES. They didn't get covered up, but they sort of went in like that's the part you're looking at anyway.
yeah, exactly. Like that's what you're going to be looking at here. I'm trying to pull up other images of them right now. Let me just, yeah, here's a better angle. So I'm going to save this real quick. I just want to show the listener or the viewer. In that case, we got viewers now because we are doing it this way here. This is a different version of the cartridge, but it's very simple though. I just like this little like angled feature on it.
Hmm.
So that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this one today. I don't think it's enough to push it very far. It's kind of C tier to me, but I wanted to showcase it as being like, oh, look at what some different company did. You know,
Yeah.
look at
Just
what Mattel did.
the problem here is there's not a lot of room for artwork on it
No.
because they don't put any. There's like you said, there's nothing on the front of the cartridge. It's really just on the top, and so
Mhm.
you just can kind of put in like a stylized logo of whatever the game is, but you can't do the cool like Atari 2600 thing where you put in the an image that evokes the feeling of the game, which is cool.
Mhm.
And so for that reason, I put it. I think I rank it pretty low, but the
Pretty
stacking
low.
is huge.
Do you want to go C tier? Or do you want to go F tier?
I think C tier. I don't think this is an F tier.
Okay, it's not F tier. Take that, Master System. Okay. I what's well, you got a next pick?
All
Second
right,
to
we're
last
gonna
pick.
talk about another weird one. Sonic and Knuckles
All right.
cartridge.
Let me grab the picture of the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge. And let me see if I remember what I named it. Oh, I named it Sonic and Knuckles for Sega Genesis. Okay,
Great.
good. There we go. So this
Uh,
is it. This is the one that can actually connect to another
yeah.
cartridge.
So it is part of the Tower of Power.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is there's not a whole lot of room for artwork on it because it just has a thin little strip where it says Sonic and Knuckles on it. So that's kind of a bummer. But I I guess aesthetically speaking, it's ugly. It's awful. I don't like it. So for
Mhm.
that reason, it's got to be pretty low. But functionally, it is the most functional of any cartridge
Talked
we've
about?
ever talked about on here.
Do you think that this is an F tier, but like a Power Rangers Zord, when you build the Tower of Power, it becomes S tier? This
Yes.
Magikarp becomes a Gyarados, essentially.
This Magikarp becomes a Gyarados when you stack Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on top.
So in that case, I like
It
the
still looks
idea.
kind of dumb, actually. Even with
I
a game in it, it still looks dumb.
Well, I like the idea of putting it in the F tier, thinking that maybe when it evolves, it becomes A
Okay.
tier. Are you okay
Yeah.
with doing F
I'm
tier for
down.
that?
Let's do that.
Okay, F tier, but just so everyone knows, it could become a beautiful butterfly at some point. All right, if it really wants to. All right, so that means the last one we got here is SNES.
Yeah.
Last cart that we're going to talk about today, the Super Nintendo. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like this cartridge. I don't think it's an S tier cartridge.
I don't think it's an S tier either.
I'm I don't want to put it in the B tier because I think it's so much better than the other B tier cartridges, though. I want to
Yeah.
put this in the A tier. I want to end strong with it. How do you feel about that?
I think A tier is good. It does have the name of the game along the top, which is
Hmm.
important. Um, it's got the some of the older ones, like the Super Mario one that we're looking at, has a different grip thing where it's actually you can't pull it out of the system without hitting the eject button.
Hmm.
There's another version of this cartridge that for some of the newer ones, newer Super Nintendo games where you can still eject them, but you don't have to. You can pull them out. So I think that's the main difference between those two different styles of cartridge. But
I don't think that's enough to necessarily move us from one thing to the other,
no,
though,
I don't
right?
think so either. I just wanted to talk
Yeah,
about it.
no, for sure. It's
Okay.
important to be thorough. So
Yeah.
A tier.
A tier. Yeah.
A tier for this. Okay, let's do the rundown then. Do you
Okay.
want to do the rundown from F to S for the
Yeah.
listener?
Okay. So in the F tier, we've got the Sonic and Knuckles Tower of Power cartridge. Looks bad. This is an aesthetics thing, not a
Yeah,
functionality thing.
we don't have to explain ourselves. We can just tell them what it is at this point. They've
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Sonic and Knuckles, bad. Sega Master System, also bad. Nintendo DS, boring, bad. Nintendo Switch, tastes bad. F
Tastes
tier.
bad. Not
Uh,
good for cuisine.
yeah. C tier, Nintendo 3DS. The regular Sega Genesis cartridge. The weird Tiger R Zone cartridge with a screen in it, and the Intellivision cartridges. Saved from F tier by being able to stack. B
Mhm.
tier, 32X cartridge. Looks a little cooler than the Genesis cartridge. The Channel F cartridge, lots of points for being the first. Also looks very functional, has instructions on the front.
Construction yellow.
Yes, construction yellow. Atari, great artwork on the front. 2600 specifically. The Sega Genesis cartridge from EA specifically because it has that cool yellow tab. We like that. And
We
also
like
the
those.
weird Boktai cartridge for Game Boy Advance, also B tier. A tier, Nintendo 64. We love it, but what keeps it from S tier is lack of label along the top. Right.
Yeah.
Also, there is that the 7800 cartridge. No,
No, that's the
5200.
200 cartridge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Atari
We looked at the
5200 cartridge.
72 and the 72 and 5200 weren't that different.
Yeah,
So we just kind of went with the 5200 as the
yeah.
example.
Also has the Sega Game Gear cartridge, very fun to insert into a Game Gear, and the Super Nintendo cartridge is also A tier, which brings us to the S tier, which is the original Game Boy. We love it. The
Mhm.
Game Boy Advance, it's the same thing but better, and the NES, which has all the cool ridges on it and is really fun to insert and take out of your Nintendo, and we love it. So
Yeah. I'm actually looking here at the 7800 cartridges, by the way, and they're way more like the 2600s than the 5200s. Maybe I messed that up. That wouldn't surprise me. But
well, either
I
way,
mean, they're very much like the if you look at a 2600 cartridge, the 7800s are a little bigger and they have like bigger art on them, but they're the same general shape. So we would probably rank them in the same as Atari. Is it B tier?
yeah.
So I'm not worried about it. Yeah. But man, I mean, Nintendo's taking the S spots. So are we
And a lot
Nintendo?
of the F spots.
Are we Nintendo? Are we just Nintendo fanboys?
No, because
Maybe
we put a lot of Nintendo stuff in the F tier also.
we did.
They
That's
just
true.
have a lot, so they sort of
They
stay.
do. They love cartridges, and that's
Yep.
why we like
They
them. You
stuck
know.
the cartridges long before, longer than they should have.
And that's why Shigeru Miyamoto is a friend of the podcast.
That's right.
As we've always said. It's true.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we got to read some emails.
Okay.
Do you want to? Do you want me to read the email, or do you want to read the email? How do you feel
You read
about it?
the email.
I'll read the email. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop sharing this, so it'll just be Tyler and I now. Ooh, hello. Okay,
Mm.
we got an email. I don't know their name. They didn't put a name or a subject in it. Actually, you know what? They sent a second email. Maybe I can see it from there. Ah, yes, Jordan. Jordan is the the person that emailed us. They gave us their last name. I'm not going to say their last name. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. They actually sent us 2 emails, so we're going to read their first email this week, and we'll read the next one next week, just to keep it kind of quick here. So Jordan says, "Hello, Mike and Tyler. I hope today finds you well. I work at UPS as a sorter, and I listen to your podcast every day while I work. You guys present the information in a relaxed manner. It's really fun to see you guys talk about the things that you're passionate about. I'm about 70 episodes in, but I'm upset you didn't mention in the FPS episode, one of the best games that have ever existed or will ever exist, the Time Splitter games." Now, we've gotten a lot of talk about
Ooh.
Time Splitter. We're gonna cover Time Splitter at some point. We have to. We've gotten a lot of emails about it and like messages. So
Yeah.
uh, I will come out and say it the best challenges and multiplayer modes ever. Not even a challenge. Also, I feel like there are some absolute gems of gaming during the original Xbox days, namely Phantom Crash, Phantom Dust, Hunter the Reckoning, and the second one, Hunter the Reckoning, the Redeemer, and Voodoo Vince. Voodoo Vince is a great name for a game.
Mm-hmm.
Never played it? Love the name.
I haven't played any
Also,
of those.
I haven't either. Also, there is another hidden gem for the GameCube that I feel needs to be talked about. That's Custom Robo. It was a top-down mech arena game. Have you ever heard of that, Tyler?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
Me neither. You could build your own zany cartoon mech and it would duke it out in several different arenas. Some of the weapons were nutty. Some spat a fire dragon that would juggle enemy mechs, and it was just a lot of fun. I will argue that Double Dash for the GameCube is by far the best Mario Kart game out there. I will fight people for the opinion. Anyways, just wanted to drop you guys a line and say hi. Thanks, Jordan. I also think that Mario Kart Double Dash is the best Mario Kart game, and I think Tyler disagrees with me, actually.
I
'Cause we talked about it before.
I got a soft spot for Mario Kart 64.
Mm-hmm.
I really love it. Double Dash is great though. That's not.
So good.
I'm no mean to talk trash about Double Dash. If that's your favorite one, you think it's the best. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. That's a great choice. Great game.
You're
I
not
played a
just
lot of
saying
it.
that because Jordan threatened to fight you if you did.
No, I'm not just saying that. Although I am a little scared of Jordan.
Okay, I am too. So that's why I'm blindly agreeing with him. Just kidding. No, I actually really do like Double Dash. We had a time in college where we would play that game a lot. So it has fond memories for me. So anyway, if you want to send us an email, you can do that. You can send us an email at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to join our Discord, look at our Trello boards, follow us on Twitter, any of that stuff, you could go to codexpodcast.net. The site was having some problems. I think it fixed itself, actually, which was kind of nice. So it should be working now. But you can also join our Discord from there. There's a link that never expires, and you can send us an email from there too. And with that, Tyler, would you like to say goodbye, everyone, for the day?
Goodbye, everyone, for the day.